What's up? It's Justin Blackman, and I have got something fun for you. Last week, I showed you guys a breakdown of a video from Tru Earth. It was about a laundry detergent, eco-friendly, and I focused on the difference of the humor in the video versus the sales. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper today and do a Codex Persona breakdown. So here we go. So here it is, Tru Earth Codex Persona breakdown. And yeah, so last week, I'm going to post a video below if you haven't watched it. Highly recommend it. It's an awesome video, really funny. You can take a look afterward and watch that. But this is what it looked like in case you forgot. And during the review, we focused on the sales versus the humor percentage. And today I want to focus on the voice. Now, in case you forgot, here's what we discovered last week. This morning, it was 68% sales, 17% humor, and then 15% transition lines, which meant that humor assists the sales and not the other way around. And that's important. That's really, really important. If you're a fan of the Harmon brothers, that's essentially what they do. And one of the findings was really, even if you remove the humor from it, the video would still work on its own. So don't forget that. But this morning, I took the copy and I broke it down even further using the Brand Ventriloquist framework. And for those that don't know, the Brand Ventriloquist framework is WTF, your words, your tone, and your frequency. So WTF is your voice. And that's based off of something that we teach in the Codex Persona, which is the vocabulary, tone, and cadence. In this piece, I'm going to go a little bit deeper and show you what I found. The vocabulary level of this ad was at grade 4, which is moderate. The tone was joy, and the cadence is relatively fast. Let's go a little bit deeper on that. If we look into it, we'll see that joy is actually the only tone that ranked, which is interesting, but I also know that the tool that I use for that is a little imperfect, so for now, I just want to note it. If I look at the word length, this gets really nerdy and really sciencey, and I love it. But without being too overbearing on you, one of the things that I want to point out is that if we look at the average word length, it's 4.62, which is moderate without being overbearing. There are lots of bigger words, and if we take a look over here, you'll see that you've got some 7, 8, 9-letter words, but it's also very well balanced out by 2, 3, and 4-letter words. So it's moderate without being overbearing. Lots of bigger words without being too scientific, and we know this because if you watch the video, they talk about phosphates and parabens and some scientific things. They talk about the ingredients, but they don't really get ultra nerdy on it. So that's important. It's not a basic vocabulary, but it's moderate. And if we look at their average sentence length, it's 9.18. This is short, but it's not so short that it's staccato or choppy. It's actually relatively on par with my sentence structure. I typically write between 8 to 10 words per sentence. So if you've been following me, you'll know that you might be able to recognize that pattern. Commas is actually, it's 60. That's really high. To put that in comparison, my average sentence length is about 10 words, 8 to 10, but my average comma use is actually only about 30. So they're doubling my comma use. Now, I know that this is based off dialogue rather than writing. So I want to keep that in mind. But it also means that they're cramming more into each sentence. I typically stick with one thought per sentence. They're probably combining lots of ingredients and lots of details into each sentence, but still on a short, relatively staccato basis. And if I look at the amount of apostrophes, that's pretty high. So they're at 36. I'm usually around that, but again, I'm also dealing with dialogue. And if I look at exclamation points, they've got 10. That's pretty high. I'm usually 1 to 2. Again, dialogue, more excitable, and also I'm dealing with the transcript. So all things that I want to keep in mind as I look into the tone. And if I were to plot this, I know that the vocabulary level is 4, and I know that the cadence level is fast. So if I'm looking at a Codex Persona chart, I know that my cadence is going to be on the shorter end, if this is the middle over here. We are on the faster end, and their vocabulary is just above center. This is usually around 3 to 4, actually right around 3. So I know that I'm probably going to be right up around here. So averages tend to be about 14 lines per sentence, 14 to 16 would be right around here. So they're on the shorter end and their cadence is high. So I know that I'm dealing in this quadrant. Again, it's only one piece, so I don't have enough to identify a pattern yet, but I've got enough to be able to begin. And if I take a look at their homepage, because I know that I need more than one piece of copy to identify a pattern. Really, you need 3 to identify it. But take a look at the homepage. Again, it's comparing dialogue to web copy, so I should expect a few differences. But let's see how they match. And I'm not entirely sure where the ad drives to, if it's a particular landing page or the homepage, but I will note that if it were driving to the homepage, there would be a bit of a disconnect, because here we are talking about the eco-friendly laundry detergent, but this is also about sensitive skin, and it deals more with how it feels. So that would be a disconnect, skin versus plastic, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. It's just a quick analysis. And what that shows is their vocabulary level is 7, so it's relatively higher. And running it through some of the tools, I see that 22% of their sentences are hard or very hard to read. And their tones are joy, analytical, and tentative. Before I only had joy. Now I've also got analytical and tentative. And the cadence is relatively fast. Taking a look more, again, joy, analytical, and tentacle. Joy, analytical, and tentative. Not tentacle. And then when I look at the breakdown of the copy, it's actually very similar. And here, let me bring up the old stuff for you. Look, if we've got our average sentence length and average word length. Average word length is 5.16. Before it was at 4.62. So we've gone up a little bit, but we're still pretty close. And notice, we kind of see a little bit more of like 9 and 10 letter words, a couple 12, even up to 15. So a few things that do raise the level, and this would make sense because the person coming to this page is going to be at a different level of awareness, so probably makes sense that we can up that vocabulary level a little bit. And what else have we got? If we look at the sentence length, we're at 10.95 before we went 9.18. So we went up a little bit. Not a lot, still consistent, but it did go up a little bit. And if we look at the exclamation points, they're at 6 to 10. So they still have a little bit of that excitable clarity. And, it gets interesting. We're seeing that there is a good match here. But one thing that I really want to focus on is, and also the commas per sentence. Look at that, 60 to 60. That's almost, it never almost happens exactly like that. So that's pretty cool, especially because of the transition in the dialogue to copy. But one thing that I really want to focus on right now is that analytical nature. So let me pull this back up. Before we were over here, we were at this red star. We knew where we were. And knowing this, we've gone up a little bit in vocabulary and we've gone a little bit longer in the sentence length. So if I'm going to plot the second point, I know that I'm going to be up and to the right a little bit. And I'm sort of overlapping 2 circles. Again, I've only got 2 pieces of copy here, so I'm just figuring it out right now. But let's take a look at something deeper. Let's go look at their homepage, their about page. If I go here, there are a few things, you don't need to read this all, but I have. And a couple of things that I've noticed is look at some of the wording here. This is about the owner's story. It's actually written in first person. And he loved his routine, but he got upset. The ads that he saw were promoting waste. He said, "This is insane." Ryan wasn't a hardcore environmentalist, but he cared about the world and his kids' futures. And lines like, "How the heck does it get my clothes clean?" And I couldn't understand. Actually, it starts in third person, but then it switches to first person. So these are relatively aggressive words, right? And so it's not something that we see everywhere. There's actually a little bit of a fighting nature to it. And that's important because, again, when I go back here, I see these 2 circles, and I know you don't know what they mean, but I'm going to help you out. So these 2 circles are part of the frameworks that we use in the Codex Persona. And the 2 circles are eternal optimist, so feeling good about everything, and anti-establishment, which is also feeling bad about everything. And notice that there actually is a difference here. And right here, we're in the middle. And I want to point this out. Here's where it becomes interesting. The personas that we use for these 2 brands, or these 2 voice types, we've got Marie Forleo is our eternal optimist. And when it comes to anti-establishment, we go with Ben Settle. So really what we're looking at is everything is figure outable versus everything sucks. And you kind of wonder how that would make sense to have an overlap of that. And actually, here's how it works. Because if we look at Tru Earth, it's the current system sucks, but we figured out a better way. So you can see how once you have a better understanding how they approach their copy, and you can judge their tones and see that analytical, aggressive nature, but still playful, adds in cohesion at a whole new level rather than just looking at it plainly. But by looking at this, I would know how to approach all their copy with a little bit of an aggressive vibe, fighting against something, not for something, but I'm actually fighting against something in an optimistic way. So they have a hybrid voice. They are right here. They're joyful and they're optimistic, yet rebelling against the status quo. They're not fighting for, they're fighting against. And that's the key to their approach. Their outlook is their primary characteristic. And it's told with joy rather than fear. So it's not straight joy like a Marie Forleo, and it's not straight fear like a Ben Settle. And if we look back at the original video, we can actually see how that comes into play. Here's just a couple of random screenshots that I grabbed. So you'll see that begins with a little bit of anger. They're rebelling against the status quo. They're saying that it sucks. And then they're showing the optimistic way that they figured it out. And you can even see how the color schemes reflect the vibe. So it goes a little bit dark to light and bright colors and a little bit of a happier feel. So knowing that, it really begins to make much more sense in a much clearer way. And I realize that you probably want to know what the rest of these voice types are. And I could be a jerk and hide them from you, but I'm not going to do that because the fact is I actually want you to know these because I want you to use them. So here they are. You can pause the video for a second and take a look at these. But really there are different ways of approaching all the copy. We've got authority, outlook, and accessibility, all things that we teach in the Codex Persona. And as much as this will help, in order to really understand voice and to see how this applies to creating cohesion across the brand and how you can make a ton of money by creating brand voice guides and documenting it for people and understanding this on a much deeper level, you actually really need to go behind the scenes on a higher level. And that's what Abby and I teach in the Codex Persona. And this January, I will personally be working with up to 10 students, just 10 students, to teach them everything I know about voice and provide additional one-on-one guidance and help you build out your first voice guide, something that we'll do together. So not only do you get everything from the standard Codex Persona workshop, you also get my brand ventriloquist templates and a little bit of my interpretation of the original courses so you can come up with your own version. I'll show you how to create and personalize and customize everything to create your own packages. So these are the same programs that I have used to, the same templates that I've used to create voice guides for Amy Porterfield, for Stu McLaren, Tarzan K, a few tech and SaaS brands. Works really for anybody. You just have to tweak a couple of little dials, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. If you want to learn about it, you can go to codexpersona.com/academy, or just click the link below, and you can also email me if you have any questions. On that note, go do good things, and don't forget to click. Bye.